I've decided to put this bracket on next. It goes from the frame and actually where the air reservoir, vacuum reservoir is bolted on, right in here. Hopefully I'm not blocking the light too much. Those two bolts, I've taken one out already. It goes in through there and then through a spot in the inside of the fender there, which I will show you whenever I move this. But for now, I'm going to take out the second bolt, and I'll let you know I cheated on this because I did the other side first, and I learned a couple things. Which I will point out. But first thing you need to do is you need to start this through, there's a little flap back there inside the fender. I guess that wasn't the easiest way to do it. From this side. Okay. I'll move the camera now and show you. Well, first thing I'll do is I'll start one of those bolts very loosely up there. Whichever one I can get started. And my light's not in a very good place. And I picked this side of the video because it was going to be easier. Hopefully I can catch a couple threads there. I just want to hold it up while I go show you the other thing I learned. It'd be a lot easier if I had a second pair of hands. Okay, I think that one's started. I'm going to start the other one since it appears to be lined up. And one of the things I learned here, I will put a hand wrench on it before to make sure that I can turn it easily. And I'm not stripping it before I hit it with the impact wrench, but I'm going to take you around to the front side now. This is the part where I learned something. This needs to be here. It'd help if I aimed the camera right. So this was not lined up when I put it in there. And it has to, there's a threaded end here, a threaded nut welded onto the back of that bracket that the crash bumper screws into. And what I did on the last side is I tightened up those other two bolts first, and then this wasn't aligned. So what I learned is before you tighten those bolts, get a nut on here. And apparently I've got some paint in that thread because I can't turn it by hand. But by putting this bolt in here, when I tighten those other two bolts, this is just a spare bolt. The bolt that goes in with the crash bumper basically is difficult to get out of the crash bumper, so it's best to just leave that alone. But now that I've got that bolted here, I can go back to the other side and tighten those other two bolts. And first I'm going to test without the impact wrench, but I can tighten these two bolts and that won't move. Make sure these are started good before I put an impact wrench on them. One is, the other isn't. That might be started now, I just didn't have it threaded in straight. All these bolts, because I painted them, are subject to having maybe a little bit of paint inside them. So I'm trying to get the socket on the impact wrench right now. So I'm not going to move the camera to tighten these two bolts. Just, and when you put these on now, you can only see 3 bolts, so because one is behind it. That will be one of the ones that hold the vacuum reserve tank in, is behind a hump in this bracket. Okay. Now that I've got that in, I can take this bolt out, which I just robbed from somewhere else. and the bracket will be lined up for the crash bumper. So I'll take that bolt back to where I robbed it from so I don't lose it. And I have to figure out what these two bolts hold on. Okay, it looks like this bracket, which is going to give some rigidity to the flexible bumper, bolts on right there, and there's a hole here that looks like there's a screw in the crash bumper that's going to go up in there once it's all on. Okay. So I will put one of those on each side. And I think I'll be able to just put the crash bumper up on it while I bolt that into place. Okay, I'm going to put one of these bolts in, and then I have to go grab the washer I dropped onto the floor and the other bolt. I think I can tighten these all the way up until I get that crash bumper in place, because it looks like when I screw this into the bottom of the crash bumper it might need to move a little bit. But I will tighten these two bolts. I'll put the same piece on the other side and prepare the crash bumper for installation. One of the things I have to do, there's a couple bolts here that it bolts to. Have to take those out. There's actually brackets that are attached to the crash bumper that go onto that. So I'm going to go put that other piece on like this one. And I'll tighten this up a little bit and I'll be back. I don't have a lot of room to set up the camera here to show you things, but look in the upper left hand corner of the screen I'm pointing to. This is the hole where I said the crash bumper bolted into, and I put the temporary bolt in there so that it would be lined up. This is the bracket I just put on that's going to be bolted to the crash bumper. And then over here, this kind of upside down house shaped thing has 3 bolts that bolt to the back of the crash bumper. There are shims that go between that and the crash bumper. And then on the other side, I'll zoom in, you have the other bracket that supports the fender and gets bolted up into the crash bumper. And you can see if I can put my finger right there, that's where the other temporary bolt went to line up the holes so that when I put the crash bumper on, it's good. And then at the bottom of the vacuum reservoir tank, and I'll zoom out so you can see how there's two of those. Those get bolted to brackets that are on the, they're already attached to the crash bumper. I'll take you over and show you what the crash bumper looks like so you know what I'm trying to put on here. So this is what I've been referring to as the crash bumper. Back in the 70s, and I was around when they mandated this, the government mandated that all cars should be able to have a 5-mile-an-hour impact and not have any damage. So this was GM's solution to that. This is the top of it. I'm going to roll it over a bit so I can show you some of the other stuff. And just check to make sure you're seeing it. Okay, first of all, right here on the end is the bolt that goes in where that temporary bolt I put in to align those brackets is, and it doesn't really come out of here, so I can put it in. If I can support it on those two brackets temporarily and then get this started, I'll be good. I'll get to that later. And I'm going to need a wrench to take these out. This is where the shims go. I'm not going to try to play with those while the thing is loose, because I think I'll just be difficult on myself. I think the easier way to go about that is to, oops, I'm not even pointing at the shims. The easiest way to go about that is mount the thing and then slip the shims out and bolt them in. Should be fairly easy to do, but there were two separate shims on either side near the top, and then only this big shim at the bottom. So I'll get this in and slip this up, put the bolts in, put all the shims in after. Let me aim this over at the other side where it bolts into that bracket where the I put the temporary bolt in to position it. And right back here is the bolt. Actually, it's a nut. There's a stud here that has to be put on where I showed you that hole in that bracket. That's the support for the inner side of the fender. Or, I'm sorry, the outer side of the fender. So right now I'm taking that nut off of the other side. Now I told you that there's two brackets. Let me aim the camera again. two brackets that go from the crash bumper to the bottom of the vacuum reservoir tank. And they right now have on the end of them two screws. I believe these held the fan shroud that goes to the radiator, and I don't have that same fan shroud because I went with electric fans, so I won't be using those two holes. But the other two, these that are at the they're at the bottom of the vacuum reservoir tank. Now, the reason I'm trying to put those on with this piece, which I don't know how hard or easy this is going to be, but this is interesting. I've got a couple bolts here. I think these just hold this rubber insert onto the metal part. I don't think I need to bolt anything else onto them. But back to the pieces that get bolted to the vacuum reservoir tank. The reason I want to try to put that on as one piece, and it may be something I have to back off on, depending on how this goes, especially because these probably have to go up under that bracket on the radiator support, or the vacuum reservoir tank. But the reason I didn't want to put those on after the fact is because of the way the bolts are. And there's a bolt here, if you can see that. Don't think you saw that. To zoom in because it's blending in with all the black. At the bottom of this support, there's a bolt right there. And I think it's a stud that's in the thing here, but it also may be a carriage bolt because these ones on the top are a carriage bolt. Right, that nut there, there's a carriage bolt that comes up through it. So it's probably be easy enough to put this carriage bolt in, but this one and this one might be a real problem. So I'm going to attempt to put this up as one piece, and hopefully I'll be successful. But I may have to loosen those two brackets that I already put in with the rubber bumper that support the corner of the flexible bumper. But we'll see. I'm going to move the camera and set it up as best I can on the far side. And hopefully I'll be able to get a decent video of putting that up. Okay, so I had to loosen these two things and let them flop around because I didn't have room to get this stud into that top hole and get this started. So I'm going to try to do one end at a time. Let's see what we can do here. Thought I had the one stud in, but nope. I think I need some more light on the subject so I can see where the hole is. Oh, it's back there further. Okay. Keep missing it. Come on. It's got to be close. Again, this is another one of those things where an extra pair of hands would be really nice. Let's see. Okay, I've got it started, so I'm going to run and get a nut put on there so I don't lose it. So that is the nut into the bracket, or the stud into the bracket. Now, I think I'm going to try to do the same thing on the other side before I try to put the bolts into the okay, something's binding. Okay. Almost there. Okay, got that one started. At least once I get these nuts on, it shouldn't fall down. This is the side that I have a little trouble getting off, so there's probably a little paint in that. Now, hopefully you can see it. I'll try to get the nut started for these supports that go into the bottom of the... Okay, this is what I was afraid of. I think these holes are pretty far off. These brackets are pretty far off, and I'm going to have to loosen these. I don't have to loosen them much, that will be good, because I can reach them from here. But I think that needs to go over. And let's try this one, see how it is. You know what? That one may not need to be loosened. If it does, it's just a tiny bit. Okay, since that's not going to work, let's see if I can start the pieces that go where those temporary bolts were. I think it's going to need some jiggling. Let's see if I can get the other side started first. Yeah, got that started. And unfortunately, getting that started, I lost the nut off of this other piece. Oh, maybe I might have to loosen it a little bit. Hopefully I won't have to unthread it all the way. You know what? Knowing what I know now, I believe it may be easier to take that bracket off so that I can get this going. You know what? This one seems like maybe it's started a little bit. Going the wrong way. Well, I may have screwed myself up by not checking the ratchet before I put power to it. No wonder it's not starting. It's not even close to the hole. Can't see that. get a little jack or something to put some pressure on that to get it up where I can get it started. I'm going to shut the camera off and play with that a little bit. Okay, so here's what I did so far. I've jacked this up with a jack to bring it up. I had to loosen these carriage bolts here. I just loosened them a little bit to give me some play in these. Didn't loosen very much. Both of them are loose. And now I'm trying to shift the whole thing over that way so that this bolt lines up. I don't know if it did or not. Doesn't feel like it. No. What I'm going to try to do before I do that is to get these bolts that go to the bottom of the vacuum reservoir. I want to try to get those threaded in so that once I get that last one threaded, we should be good to go. I'm gonna have to get under there to where I can see the darn thing. I can't see whether it's lined up or not. On one hand, it feels like it is with just going by feel, but so far I'm not having a whole lot of success in getting that lined up. From underneath, okay, by moving that bracket just a little bit, pushing out on the front of that crash bumper, I was able to get that one started. And this one looks like it might go pretty much the same way. Actually, now that that one started, this one went in just fine. So, if I put a little pressure outward on that, I can turn it by hand. Okay, so that started. I'm gonna take this bracket off over here because I think it will go on better. I think I have this on tight and I better put it on loosen. think I'll be able to get it through that stud easier. Won't work with one nut out, or one bolt out. I'm going to start this nut first because that was one of the ones that was a little harder to start. So just want to make sure that I can get it on by hand and I can't get it off. Is that crazy? Okay, let's get this on. Okay, got it on the stud. I need some illumination over here. Okay, it looks like once I get that last one started over here, the way to go is going to be to tighten the nut first and then tighten the, tighten the nut that's on the stud that comes down out of this thing. And then tighten the ones that attach it to the bracket that's on the frame. And start it. Okay, so now what I have to do is go around and tighten these in the, before I do that, I should get the shims in the back of this. I have a couple little bolts on here that I use to support the nose of the car when I had it off of the frame. Those need to come out now. looks pretty good. Like I said, I have to go get the shims and do those. I don't think you're going to be able to see anything as I try to do that. So I may be shutting off the video and going under the car and putting this in. But for now, let's just see if I can kind of do it by the Braille method here. Well, I might have to loosen up those two end bolts because there's no space for a shim between this crash bumper and the air tank, air reservoir, vacuum reservoir bracket. Just, that's not against flat up against that. I wonder if I could just do it that way. Bolts lined up. That's a good thing. And I can feel all the bolts are lined up, and there's no play in there. What would be the negative impact of that, if anything? The bumper wouldn't fit as close to it. I don't know that that's a negative. I don't want to take a chance on moving these out to pull it back to get that shim in there. I think I'm going to go with that and adjust later if necessary, because I think it'll work just fine the way it is. So I will go ahead and insert these bolts from the back. Sure felt like those bolts were wide open. I may have to go underneath since where I can see them. Okay, those aren't lined up as good as it felt like from underneath or from the front. Seems like maybe I have to jack up the front crash bumper, or alternatively loosening the air tank is probably not an option, because you'd have to take off the brackets that support the front frame, the front crash bumper. So I am going to try to move my jack over here and raise this up. Now that that's started, the first thing I'm going to do before I forget is I'm going to tighten these two little 9/16 nuts. Attach that little rubber bumper that supports the front end of the flexible bumper. Then I'll move the jack. Put it on the wrong way, I'm loosening. Okay. Move my jack and see if I can get those started. Those are the last 3 bolts that I have to get started, and then I'll be able to tighten everything up. Hopefully I've got a good alignment to get this jack under there. In a spot where it won't slip. I may have done it. see what it looks like. Yep, one went in already. I can only find 2 of the bolts. The second one is started. I guess that's the 3rd bolt. And the 3rd one started. So the jack did the trick. Let's see if I can get that ratchet in there now, or whether I need to go manual. Okay, get these 2 that hold it to the air reservoir, and then I've got to do the ones I loosened to allow those brackets to move. I don't know if I loosened these. I don't believe I loosened the ones over on this little side rubber bumper. Yeah, maybe I did. Okay. Tighten these couple of carriage bolts. There's 2 more I haven't done yet, and those are the two at the end of the crash bumper that go into that bracket where I had that temporary bolt to keep it lined up. I didn't do those yet. Well, at least I got something done today after my confusion about whether I had put any antifreeze in there. So a little bit more tightening on these two end ones, and we're done. Okay, I think that's ready for the bumper cover to go on, but that'll be another day since it's in time to go up for dinner. But I think so far we're good. One comment I had here, I just thought of it. I have a new bumper cover, and if I put it on, it will require paint. If I put the old one on, it'll be good enough, because I'm not making this car to be pretty, I'm making it to be fast and handle well. But I have a brand new bumper cover that I accidentally bought for my 74 because somebody one time told me that that was a front end from a 75, and as it turns out he didn't know what he was talking about. So I bought it for the 74. I get it, and it's designed to fit 75, 76. So I've had it sitting up there for years, and like I said, I was debating whether to put that one on or not. And now that I think about it, I think when I took this off, there was a big hole in the one that was on here in the front that the new one doesn't have. So that might dictate that I go with the new one, and I have a black bumper on the front to do something about painting it. That might take a long time because I put it on my 74, and my 74 has black rocker panels and a little bit of black trim, and it looks pretty good on it unpainted, so I never got around to painting it. So that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching it. It was quite an effort to get that on with one guy doing it. But hopefully there's some tips in there that somebody else can learn from and have an easier time with their project. So, thanks for watching.